So this offseason, Cleveland, they did a great job of just trying. They just really tried this offseason to try to improve the team that they had upon. Now, I wrote down some key free agents for each team. And key free agents for the Cleveland Browns last year would be Josh Gordon, Isaiah Crowell. Those are the two big free agents. They didn't have a lot of free agents. They had a lot of cap space this offseason, so they had the ability to go out and get free agents as they did. Same coach, not a new coach here. Can't think of his name. Hugh Jackson is still the coach here. New GM though, got a new GM, and he's got a lot of changes going on over this offseason. Now, to talk about those key free agents, Isaiah Crowell, he signed with the Jets, and they re-signed Josh Gordon. Another key team needs that I talked about. So one of the things that I noticed about the Browns last year that I just really didn't like was, or that I haven't liked what they've been doing over the last couple of years. Now, we can go before the Johnny Manziel era, but let's just start at the Johnny Manziel era and say, what do they do with their quarterbacks? They absolutely ruin every quarterback that they draft, because what they do is they let their Josh McCown or their Chris, who the fuck was that? Kevin Hogan, Cody Kessler. They will just, the guy last year, fucking Kaiser, they will just thrust. Literally, they will just thrust a rookie onto the scene and expect him to just, in the Manziel's era, he didn't even have to play until like week 12 or week 8 or something like that. And he really didn't do that bad in one of his first couple starts. And he did not look ready at all. He had been drinking all that season. So we're not going to talk about him though. We don't have time for his CFL ass. Some of the things team need wise, I said a veteran quarterback, because I just thought that why do you ruin these prospects? Like, Kaiser wasn't a bad prospect, and now his confidence is completely fucking ruined. Nobody wants him. He made tons of rookie mistakes. Even by week 16, he was still making rookie mistakes. He never got an opportunity to start over, be refresh, okay, this is a new season, a new off season, to really get things started, to really pick off. It was like he was so overwhelmed by everything that was going on. He just needed some time to get into the understanding of how things work, to get into the routine of an NFL team. And when you think about Kaiser, Kaiser was a top for sure, top 10, a top 5 prospect coming out last year. And he was only a sophomore, junior. He could have stayed another year at Notre Dame. So just a sad story for a kid like him. He came out early because he had such a great year at Notre Dame, led his team real deep on the year. Wasn't even the starter to start the year. And then he gets drafted 3rd or 4th round by the Browns, and then his fucking career is over with because thrusted him onto the scene, and they get fucked. So my main thing, my top need was a veteran quarterback. And what they do, they went out and got Tyrod Taylor. Good pick there. Tyrod was in a situation where you could tell the Bills didn't want him. He was already there when, what's his name, Sean McDermott got there. And you could tell Sean McDermott said, Nathan Peterman's not ready, but Tyrod's not our future. You could totally see that from last year. So, and they were making trades. He's been getting a ton of his Panthers back from the Panthers, because he used to be OC at the offensive coordinator at the Panthers. So, but okay, we're getting rabbit traily there. We'll talk about the Bills in a second. So, things I said else, right tackle, they need to get a replacement for Joe Thomas, and that was saying if he did retire, and he did. I figured he would. I said draft defense. I said draft defense, because your defense is ass. And so let's see what they did in the offseason. This offseason, they added – the first big one that they added was Demarius Randall. They added Demarius Randall, from the Packers, a big time cornerback for them. That was a good ad, and I was like, okay, we see you a little bit. Carlos Hyde came over in free agency. Okay, you replaced Crowell. Okay, Tyrod Taylor bringing in a veteran quarterback. Okay, great, that's good. Jarvis Landry was the big one because Jarvis Landry, the Browns was a perfect spot for Jarvis Landry, not because he's going to play awesome, but because of the situation that both teams were in. Talking about the Dolphins and the Browns. The Browns were in a situation where they need more playmakers. The Dolphins were in a position where they have they need money on their books, and if they were going to sign Jarvis Landry to a long-term deal, their books would already be fucked. They had people on their books like Sue from the last couple of years, like Ndamukong Suh. They've had other guys that are costing money on their thing. I mean, they had to add Jay Cutler last year, and that cost $10 million. So Jarvis Landry was in a position. It was time for him to get paid. The Browns have tons of cap space. The Dolphins don't. The Dolphins know that, okay, this is what you got to understand about Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry's not worth the money he's getting. The Dolphins made a business decision and said, we can replace Landry, which they did with Amendola, and we won't have to pay them half as much. And the thing is about the Dolphins, yeah, when Jarvis Landry was on your team, you're a full force Jarvis Landry. Yeah, he's a great player. He's a hardworking player. He's great. But at the end of the day, he's only in the slot. You drafted a wide receiver in the second or third round that only plays slot. He can only play the slot. He doesn't have enough strength to play on the outside. I don't feel that way. So that's something that he's going to have to address. But anyways, I think it's good that he's going and getting matched up with Josh Gordon. I think that's a good combo. I like that combo. Now let's talk about the draft that they had. Now the draft that they had, I felt like it was a little crazy. Now I mean it's 3 weeks now or 2 weeks now after the draft, so it's like whatever, everything's falling the way it was falling. Going into the draft, there was a lot of speculation about what the Browns were going to do and what the Browns could do. They could go for Barkley first overall, and then they could get the best available player, probably a quarterback, or it would have probably been Chubb, or Ward probably would have been there too at the 4. And they could have got Chubb or Ward and Barkley at 1. Well, they didn't do that at all. We knew Barkley was going to be gone after 2 if they didn't take him at 1 or 2. So they went ahead and went Baker Mayfield. They looked at all those quarterbacks and they said Baker Mayfield was the top one. Baker Mayfield has those intangibles, and Baker Mayfield has those things that make him a little bit different than the other quarterbacks. His height is not like the other quarterbacks. The one thing that resonates very well, and the reason Baker Mayfield was drafted first overall, the risk that was taken was because of his accolades. The Bill Parcells 7 accolades that you need as a quarterback, he matches all of them. And there's other guys that were on this list that prospect-wise they look better than him, but they didn't match the list. Being a graduate, having a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, winning at least, I think it's 27 or 30 games. If I didn't say graduating, being a senior. There's a lot of things that are on that list that Bill Parcells asked, and Baker Mayfield and Mason Rudolph were 2 of the only guys that were able to complete that, all 7 of them. So, and Baker Mayfield definitely probably looked better than Mason Rudolph. You weren't about to take Mason Rudolph 1 overall. You could have got him in round 3 or 4 like the Steelers did. At 4, they could have gone with Chubb, but the fact that they have Myles Garrett on the other side, they decided we don't need to go for that. We don't need to be having to pay 2 defensive linemen a year apart, 4 or 5 years from now. So they went ahead and went Denzel Ward. They added some other guys in the offseason in the secondary. E.J. Gaines is another guy that they added. And then they also added Chris Hubbard from the Steelers. Forgot to mention him. But okay, talking more about their draft pick, they went Denzel Ward for the 4th pick overall. I think it's a good pick. You could have gone Chubb, but I think I'm happy with the Ward pick. I think that's good. Austin Corbett, he's going to replace Joe Thomas. He's a good player out of Nevada. I liked what I saw out of him last year. Nick Chubb, and this is where the Browns really did a good job. You got probably the 3rd best running back in the draft, and you got him in the second, early 3rd round. You didn't break the bank and get Saquon Barkley 1 overall and then miss out on someone you really wanted like Baker Mayfield, because it really looks like John Dorsey is the GM's name, really liked something out of Mayfield. That's why I went with him 1 overall, and he knew he had those picks later. He knew that running backs weren't going to be picked, real high in the draft, so he's able to get Chubb later. I think Chubb's going to be a good player for this team. I think Chubb will probably be a good fantasy player this year, if this offensive line can hold up its end in the bargain. Chad Thomas, linebacker, I think, out of Miami. Pretty good player there. Antonio Callaway, he didn't really get to play a lot. He was suspended basically the whole year, wide receiver out of Florida, had a pretty good combine. Jannard Avery, I really like this pick out of Memphis, linebacker, kind of undersized. He's going to be good on the outside linebacker. Damian Ratley, a guy that came on late for Texas A&M, and then Simon Thomas, a guy that I had not heard of, so he's a surprise to me. But, looking at this team, the reason that I really wanted to talk about each and every team was because a couple weeks ago, ESPN got everybody real excited talking about how the Browns may be a playoff contender with the team that they had, and I just really wanted to look at it, and I really wanted to see, if ESPN was just blowing smoke like they usually are, or if they're legitimately thinking that the team that the Browns have put together, and skill-wise position, they've done a great job of putting a better team together, but as far as their trenches. Their trenches has been supposedly, not their defensive line per se, but their offensive line is supposed to be one of their better skill or better positions, but because they're so bad at all those other positions, it hasn't really got, and also because the way their linemen get paid, if you check out how their linemen get paid, a lot of them receive a lot of money, and I'm wondering if they're really that good. So the big answer for this year for the Browns is sustain. I don't think they're going to be good. I would project 4-12. At the best, 5-11. I would say get another high draft pick next year. Go after somebody else, and try again next year. This year is all about Baker Mayfield. This year is all about getting Baker Mayfield ready. Letting Tyrod play those first 8 weeks, see if we can even contend. And when they realize they can't contend and they're 2-6, Baker Mayfield will come in and Baker Mayfield will get some games under his belt. And then 2019 they'll get another draft pick. Probably they'll go defensive. I could see a linebacker. That'd probably be a good idea to go linebacker. They're not weak at linebacker, but that's the position that they hadn't upgraded the most. Maybe offensive line. That'd be a good position if their offensive line shows that it's really not that good this year. So the Browns are planning for the future, and they're banking on the fact that Baker Mayfield is going to be that future. They don't want to rush him onto the scene. They just want to let him, I think they want to let him ease through the scene. And if they thrust him onto the scene, if he's playing, if he's supposedly fucking competing with Tyrod Taylor week 1 for a starting job, you can fucking kiss his fucking career goodbye.
Cleveland is the reason I'm leaning. Cleveland is that. Cleveland is the reason I'm cold. Cleveland is that. Cleveland